Marianne Williamson finally talks about the Ukraine war, and we're gonna start with Nick, RBN brother Nick's tweet about the video that we're gonna cover really quickly. So, what Nick says in his tweet: "What the fuck is Marianne Williamson thinking about challenging Biden from the left when she agrees with him on funding Nazis in Ukraine? The two-state solution." The left wants her as commander in chief. Marianne Williamson and her supporters are deeply unserious. Now, this is the quote tweet, or this is the tweet he was quote tweeting. The Status Quo put out, and this is the quote they put. This is the quote they put out. "We are sending more money to Ukraine than Flint. More money to Ukraine than Flint and other places have gotten in a decade." That's Jordan. And then he says, Marianne Williamson quote, "I don't think it's accurate to say we are giving a blank check. We are giving financial support and military support," Marianne Williamson said. So this is the left candidate.
Efforts.
I want to. It's only 2 minutes and 16 seconds, so it's not long. So the segment won't be long. But this is amazing to me. Let's listen.
I want to turn to Russia, Ukraine. I understand we're all humans. We care about the people of Ukraine. Ukraine did not invade itself. We should care about, Somalia and Pakistan and Afghanistan and not just, white countries that are invaded. But what do you say to people, myself included? I mean, it just seems like there's like a blank check here for Ukraine, but not serious efforts by Biden to actually try to accelerate diplomacy, try to make a deal. It seems like the United States is backing endless war. That doesn't mean Putin isn't to blame, but what do if you're president today, how do you end this war? Because we're sending more money to Ukraine than Flint and many other places have gotten in a decade.
First of all, the United States doesn't have the power. Neither Ukraine nor Russia are interested right now in sitting down at the table. So it's not like the United States could just say, make that happen. The money, I don't think it's accurate to say we're giving a blank check. We are giving financial support and military support. There is no doubt about that, which I support. I support the same way that other leftists in Europe support. The Green Party of Germany supports the giving of.
She's bringing up the Green Party of Germany as if it's good. I think Nick just did a segment on that, or somebody did a segment on that. The Green Party is terrible. I think it's of Germany. I think it's the same one. Wow. I can't believe this is the candidate that the professional managerial class is pushing here. I cannot believe this. Amazing. I was trying to let this play all the way through before I said anything. Let me try to let it play another minute through.
Those tanks. The Europeans take a very different view of this. The left in Europe takes a very different view of this. Estonia, Lithuania, Latvia, the Scandinavian countries, and some leftists that I know in Europe think, I find it very odd that the left here seems to be what they perceive to be soft on Putin. So if we want to take, it should not be in addition to that $858 billion, which is already obscene. Take from the $55 billion that we're giving to the nuclear industry. There are ways that could be taken from money that we already have. So it should not be additional expense. But I do not agree that withdrawing support from Ukraine is responsible to democracy. It is responsible to the West. I understand. Look, I think anybody who'd be watching your program understands that the United States, in terms of NATO, in terms of the Aegis missiles that were in Poland and Romania.
Jordan is looking like, my God. That whole interview, Jordan is like, I cannot believe she is saying this. I'm gonna talk, but let's put this on mute and let's play after she starts talking. Now, it's not that bad here. Let's pause it. It's not that, sorry. It's not that bad here. And then it gets worse. And then it gets gradually worse. More concern. So, it's so funny. that Jordan, real time, is realizing, wow, she is terrible. This is another Mike Figueredo, Humanist Report, Nina Turner interview moment when she was like, remember strategy? This is terrible. This is the reason why she has been not wanting to talk about the Ukraine, because she knows the U.S. left is against it. This is why she's referring to international supposed left. This is the reason she's decided to point out the other left, other than U.S. left, because she knows the U.S. left is significantly split, but the majority is against. Not the professional managerial class, the NATO left, but she knows that, and that's why she's bringing that particular point up. And I'm playing this in the back so you can see Jordan's face of concern. That is a face of concern. Because she's saying awful thing after awful thing. And let's listen to some of the awful things again.
Are interested right now in sitting down at the table. So it's not like the United States.
So this point here it's a talking point that she's using. And let's listen and now let's debunk it.
Neither Ukraine nor Russia are interested right now in sitting down at the table. So it's not like the United States could just say, make that happen.
They could by just not funding it. So they could just do that. But this is the point that Matt Dust did also. Former Bernie Sanders foreign policy guy, who's also a neocon, tried to make too. Like, yeah, we're not the boss of them. Yes, you are. Why are y'all trying to act like y'all not running Ukraine right now? You're telling them exactly what to do. So that's another thing. We can't trust her on war. She's buying the talking point and even regurgitating the talking point. You can stop funding it. And it also is a slap in the face to just recent history of how the U.S. And the UK and the NATO stopped the peace agreement that was going into that they were working on back in February when this first started. Or maybe she doesn't know that.
Okay. The money, I don't think it's accurate to say we're giving a blank check. We are giving financial support and military support. There is no doubt about that, which I support. I support the same way.
Now, you notice when she's asked questions, and I do see you, Nick, so whenever you're ready to join, you notice when she asks questions, she always picks out something in the question. She did this several times with Nick, where he'll be asking her a question. What do you mean? I've been doing this for somebody. He was like, well, you just did it for Bernie Sanders, and then he finished the question. She does that to divert from answering the actual question. She'll pick out something out of the question to argue about so that she doesn't have to answer the question. And there goes Nick. What's up, Nick?
What's popping, people? This is a great stream, CJ. This is a great. I would chill here with my family. My brother's in the background. I hope it's not too loud, but I had to chime in.
No, I'm glad you came in because I read your tweet. Go ahead to say what you.
I may turn the camera on later, but you guys have to make do my.
Yeah, no worries.
Once again, there's a lot of stuff going on here. But you said it's not a blank check. We gave them the equivalent of Russia's military budget. We gave them enough money that could have solved homelessness 2 times over. You guys understand? Oh, she's so lucky. She got away. Because that would be my follow-up. What do you mean not a blank check? We could have solved homelessness. We could have canceled millions of people's student loan debt with the amount of money we sent to Ukraine. Imagine the infrastructure we could have fixed in small cities and towns with the amount of money we sent to Ukraine. And she said, it's not a blank check. She is gaslighting. And I said this in my other tweet that was in Status Quo tweet as well that did pretty well. Well, I said the people who pushed Marianne Williamson, after this, we sniffed her out weeks ago, CJ. We sniffed her out. And now I'll give Jordan all the props for this interview. I'll give him props for this. because this is a great expose. Marianne was exposed here, and she is part of the NATO left. And hold on, I got a response to something else she said. She also said, we got to support Ukraine war funding because members of the left in Europe and other countries do.
Can you believe that?
85%, 80% of the world population is not for the Ukraine proxy war. You gonna ignore what Lula said? You mean the social democrat leader of the largest population in Latin America? You gonna ignore what he said? Well, he said that they must negotiate is both NATO and Russia's fault.
Let me let it play, Nick, and I want you to comment again. I want you to comment.
Yeah, play it again. Play it again.
Let me just let you hear this again.
The United States could just say, make that happen.
I hate this talking. That does make this. Oh, United States just can't stop the war. Yeah, they can't.
Power, neither Ukraine nor Russia.
Oh, never mind. Go ahead. Never mind. Go ahead.
I can go back a little further. I was starting after he asked the question. I didn't want.
Yeah, never mind. Yeah, go ahead. You fine. You
all of his introduction. Yeah,
you fine.
Let me refresh it and see. But yeah, I'll start it after he asked the question and just get her answer. Fine. But I couldn't believe it was like a minute straight of just awfulness. And I just heard it. I just heard it today. I didn't hear it.
And just now, someone finally asked it. Someone just finally asked this question of her. And she exposed immediately exposed. Imagine all the time she's been on left media. In her
First of all, the United States doesn't have the power,
All right, let's listen. I think
it's interested right now in sitting down at the table, so it's not like the United States could just say make that happen. The money, I don't think it's accurate to say we're giving a blank check. We are giving financial support and military support. There is no doubt about that, which I support. I support the same way that other leftists in Europe support. The Green Party of Germany supports the.
Didn't she just go viral? Is it the Green Party of Germany?
Yeah, the Green Party who's been completely captured. Like this is the psyop that Marianne Williamson is trying to push to redefine what it means to be left. You have the German Green Party politicians, Germany, France as a whole, the people that quote unquote liberals, who are completely de facto subservient to the West and the United States. They will do whatever the United States and NATO says to do. Democracy Now!, who've been heavily criticized by the Gray Zone and other anti-imperialist journalists by repeating Western narrative, even they had Sweden leftist activists. I did a segment on this months ago. Look up Democracy Now! Sweden peace activists. There were Sweden peace activists that went on Democracy Now! That were criticizing their left, quote unquote, left government for wanting to get into NATO. In Sweden and Finland, there was a massive propaganda psyop campaign to push towards NATO, joining NATO. But peace activists in Sweden and Finland did not want that because they know that will be escalation. They wanted to be a neutral state as the tradition of Sweden and Finland. And there was a long interview on Democracy Now! Of the leftists in Sweden and Finland explaining this. But the politicians, just like the NATO left, the Bernie Sanders and the squad, they sold out to the military-industrial complex and the United States influence, and then they substitute their place as members of the left. So people are like, oh my God, look at these NATO leftists. The left support this position. Get the fuck out of here. Look at leftists in Africa. Look at leftists in South America. You see how these white social democrats always erase real radical black and brown people who resist U.S. imperialism? Even Lula, who is not necessarily radical on this position because Lula criticized Putin. But even Lula said we need to stop funding the war and we need to push for peace. He said Brazil is a peace nation. He's not going to send one bullet or any ammunition to Ukraine. And he says that while criticizing Putin, which is they're not even necessarily our position. But that's what he says. But we can't even get that out of Marianne Williamson and the social democrats and the neocons in Sweden and Finland. And then she goes ahead to make her point about people that live in Sweden and Finland, these social democrats that push Western chauvinism, Western aggression, and Western imperialism because their state and their social democratic system thrive off imperialism and exploitation. But let's continue the video.
Yeah, and actually, let me insert 30 seconds of another video. So this is who she's referring to, and this is the video that went viral. Right here is 30 seconds. This is the Green Party member of Germany that she's trying to act like.
Yeah. So
What's wrong with the left in the United States? You guys are crazy. Everybody else is like this. Go ahead, Nick, if you're gonna say something before the video.
yeah, just like Anna Kasparian, Marianne Williamson is here to cultivate a dumb left. That she is here to muddy the waters and dumb down what the left is really about. Because she's saying that to trick people. Oh my God, Germany Green Party people are speaking out against that because she's trying to win over the people who haven't seen this video, the people who haven't understand the Western U.S. NATO capture of Germany. Germany is subservient to the West. France is subservient to the West. And so for Marianne Williamson to come out here to try to trick people otherwise is beyond gross. But continue, CJ.
Ridiculous.
And therefore, I've said already in the last days, yes, we have to do more to defend Ukraine. Yes, we have to do more also on tanks. But the most important and the crucial part is that we do it together and that we do not do the blame game in Europe, because we are fighting a war against Russia and not against each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam.
That's who Marianne Williamson. Nick, it's a little bit of this. It is very surreal that I can't believe there's people who think after Marianne Williamson, sort of like what your tweet alluded to, anybody who still, like right here, what you say, everyone who pushed this fraud for commander-in-chief should be ashamed.
CJ, like I said, we sniffed her out months ago. We saw the patterns emerge, and we cut the head off this electoral dragon before it got started. Because
we did.
I was like, you guys are unserious. If you guys want to push Marianne for Congress, I was like, I wouldn't be for it, but I wouldn't be as visually appalled as I am now. Are you guys gonna put her as the commander-in-chief position? Like, we need a leftist. And this is me giving you a bone, whether you guys believe it or not. And this is me casting aside my radicalness, right? If you're gonna run someone in the Democratic Party as president, which I do not agree with, you better pick someone like Chris Hedges. You better pick someone who number one thing is foreign policy, and then of course they fall good on domestic policy, right? Because those two tend to be connected. You don't see a lot of people who on the left who are great foreign policy, but then they're not good domestic. So have someone who leads with foreign policy. Have someone like Dr. Cornel West who at least call out the Palestinian issue. So if you want to run the strategy that I don't agree with, at least have a strategy that makes sense. Someone who's good on foreign policy. Someone who's actually can apply principles of the left in the executive branch. They keep picking people whose weakness is foreign policy and imperialism. Right. And then they say, oh, no, they're just a weakness. Like, motherfucker, you know what the president does? The Congress and the Senate controls legislation. Learn how the branches of government works. The president mostly controls the executive branch, the branches of government like DHS, the CIA, FBI, the foreign policy. That's why Biden, I was raising the flags against him because I was like, his worst shit is that. Biden's worst shit is what you can do as president. But anyway, I'm ranting. Let's continue the video. I think you guys get my point. I think you guys get it.
The giving of those tanks. You know, the Europeans take a very different view of this. The left in Europe takes a very different view of this. Estonia, Lithuania, Latvia, the Scandinavian countries, and some leftists that I know in Europe think, I find it very odd that the left here seems to be what
Sweden.
Perceived to be.
Quick pause.
So,
like these people keep just blindly praising these countries. Sweden is one of the people that have been arming the genocide in Yemen. Like, these social democratic countries is not peaceful as these Kyle Kalinske, Marianne Williamson, Crystal Ball, Bernie Sanders, socialists portray them to be. That's why we as Marxists, that's why we as communists go a step further, because we do not enable nor do we justify imperialism using our quality of life as a justification. They say, oh my God, our quality of life is great, so I guess we can continue this imperialism shit. That's where we go to the next level that social democrats don't. And Kyle Kalinske and this left that apologize for Sweden and Finland, they do a great disservice for the overall left. they kind of whitewash these people in their crime. Not to say they're not buried in the harsh neoliberal hellhole that we are, but they still are complicit with so much pain and suffering, and they just whitewash it. But go continue, CJ.
Oh, if we want to it should not be in addition to that $858 billion, which is already obscene. Take from the $55 billion that we're giving to the nuclear industry. There are ways that could be taken from money that we already have. So it should not be additional expense. But I do not agree that withdrawing support from Ukraine is responsible to democracy. It is responsible to the West. I understand. Look, I think anybody who'd be watching your program understands that the United States, in terms of NATO, in terms of the Aegis missiles that were in Poland and Romania.
Now we understand why Crystal Ball is okay with all the talking points of Sagar brings up on Breaking Points, because she knew all along that there was going to be a candidate she was going to push and support and manufacture consent for that has the same policy. And you notice how you said this earlier, she is clearly bringing up other so-called leftists in other countries. She's clearly bringing up to whitewash the fact that this is clearly a right-wing policy position that you have here. That's clearly it. So you have to whitewash it by saying some leftist group over there says this is okay and think that we're weird, and they would call it soft, being soft on Putin. That's her talking, and she just don't want to take the responsibility, Nick. When people do that, they're saying you will call you soft, when that's just you saying it, and you don't want to take the responsibility because you don't want to say we're soft. I can't believe, Nick, that this is the person.
It's shocking.
Maybe they didn't talk. Do you think they didn't talk to her about foreign policy? And maybe that's their out. Like, wow, I didn't know she was this bad. Like, I didn't. No,
they heard our criticism. They thought we was being over dramatic. And I was like, we literally said Marianne Williamson foreign policy disqualifying, and people were like, oh my god, you guys are being too dramatic about the foreign policy. Now you guys see what we're talking about. God forbid someone ask her about China. I'm almost scared to hear it. Like, based on what I'm hearing here, based on the Western chauvinist point of view she's shown here, God forbid someone ask her about China.
But you said you've heard her use some of the same talking points, haven't you, about China? Or a tweet, maybe you told me
just for I'll be careful just because I don't remember on top of my head right now.
You don't remember?
I give her benefit of the doubt just because I don't remember anything on top of my head. I just want to see when anyone ask her about it, because the same leftists you see repeat this ridiculous rhetoric on Ukraine, like Matt Duss and Marianne, they tend to repeat the same ridiculous rhetoric about China. You have progressives that fearmonger over China. Roj Khanna was doing this in his recent interview. I broke it down recently where he fear-mongering over China. It's like, why has anyone on the left are you fear-mongering over the enemy of the imperial state of the United States, the most violent, the most brutal state to the working class? You're going to look at their nemesis and you're like, I'm going to focus my time attacking them. What sense does that make if you care about advancing the needs of the working class? There is zero strategy there. They're serving their role as puppets of the empire. But I would love strategy to see in a lot of places. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was saying it's zero strategy. It's zero strategy in a lot of things that they have in store. But that's the end of the video. Did you by chance? Now this is the same interview we just because she kind of went off on a tangent and started talking about other stuff. It was let's just end it here. But obviously this must be way at the end that we didn't cover. I don't know if you double back to see if there's more bad stuff that she said about war.
I was taking a break, so I didn't.
Okay, in a couple of days,
I just saw this clip. The clip in that tweet is like the only thing I saw on this topic. I was like, Jesus Christ! I may cover it, but
I think Jordan knows it's bad, and I think that's why the quote he put up. I think Jordan knows it bad because it was several things in there that he was kind of trying to push back on her. And she was not picking up the hint. And this was another one. Just like he was leading her. That's why his introduction to the question was so long, because he was trying to lead her with all that was happening down a left road, a progressive road, an answer, and she didn't take it. Go ahead.
Yeah. So The people who pushed Marianne Williamson, Giant L, Giant L. You can save your reputation right now, and recant your endorsement of this disaster. Imagine the moment we are in, CJ. The moment we are in, we got the Democratic Party pushing for World War III. We got them sending arms to China. The United States and NATO is planning war against China. They are funding multiple genocides. The United States and Biden. This is a story I'm gonna report here soon. They essentially turning a blind eye towards the right wing fascist turn of Israel, and we got someone who weak on that issue of Israel Palestine. Got someone who agrees with Biden on escalating World War III against Russia and funding Ukraine with essentially a blank check. Someone who never ever speaks out against the United States aggression on China. That's the person that the professional managerial class decided to anoint and then they try to put back in anyone who had criticism of this disaster. So this is a giant L for Marianne Williamson and all her supporters, and they should be embarrassed. And we sniffed this out early. We saw this electoral dragon head started to rear itself. DJ, we talked about this before. We behind the scenes, we were like, wait till 2020. There are a lot of people that are talking radical now. You had that Erica Sparian. She gave that speech where she's like, you don't know I'm tired of this Democrat. I'm tired of this nonsense. And I was like, man, y'all like, get the fuck out of here. As soon as 2024 start hitting, you guys gonna start moderating your tone. You guys gonna start pushing for imperialists for the Democratic Party. So everyone who was pushing for this person, you should be embarrassed. And you should need to do some self-reflection. Like, why is this the person that you got to try to annoy in a very Hillary Clinton, DNC, anti-democratic way, where you guys trying to silence all dissent on this? Unbelievably embarrassing for everyone involved in this.